Alright, so this is a follow-up to my videos about the 6500 XT that I bought last week. After seeing the reviews for the 3050, I said, yeah, well, for $50 more, that seems like an obvious choice. I'm gonna go exchange. Something funny happened on the way to the Micro Center. Well, it happened at Micro Center. I was there, and I didn't find a $250 3050. They're all $329, I should say. Fine. But something smells rotten in Denmark. Consider this. Gamers Nexus received a 3050 for review, but found out at the last minute that it had the wrong BIOS. It had an overclocked BIOS that was meant for a $329 product. Now, the general consensus comes out that yes, the 3050 is, at the very least, a better value than the AMD 6500 XT. The cheapest card just happens to come out at that price point. Could be a coincidence, but I don't think I got to mention this in my other video because it wasn't relevant at the time. When I bought my 6500 XT, you might recall that I had a driver issue, and I took it back and I exchanged it for a different brand. I exchanged a Gigabyte brand board for a Power Color brand board. Both of these cards were stickered at $259. They had $259 price tags on them. Yet they went on the shelf at the MSRP of $199. Where in the world did this $60 bump, where'd that ever come into play where they would have been stickered up? It's almost as if someone was expecting the price on the cards to go up. But then when the reviews came out and they found out that it was kind of a turd, they decided to release the card at MSRP. And when the 3050 came out a week later and was deemed a good enough value to be better than the 6500, it comes out at the inflated price. Now, I am not smart enough to know how the supply chain works or the purchasing, price point setting, and all this. But this seems like some really crass market manipulation to me. And I wish that I knew where to point. I wish I could tell you that this was a Micro Center thing, or this was something that NVIDIA has perpetrated and AMD just happens to have coincidentally perpetrated at the same time. Who knows? But clearly, these companies are willing to promise us things that they refuse to deliver on. At least AMD's effort to shore up the market seems to be more honest than we initially expected. There seems to be real reason to believe that, yeah, these mobile chips were the only chips they had available, so this was the move that they could make to shore up the market. And the narrative regarding this on the GeForce side is that they had reject chips from 3060s that simply needed to be downclocked in order to make them viable budget cards. Maybe that's the answer to it. Maybe, and even if it isn't the answer, I wouldn't be surprised if this is the narrative that NVIDIA leans on, that having legit 3000 series chipsets justified releasing at a higher price point. Fine, I suppose. There are a number of very tangible benefits to the 350 over the 6500 XT, but not enough that this poor man could justify $130 extra. I'm sorry, man, but I don't need the high frame rates that badly. I've gone long periods of my life gaming at 40 frames per second. This man can live with playing his games with only 4 gigabytes of memory pool. That's fine. Making the frugal choice, sticking with the AMD. I was all ready to return it, popped it out of the machine, put it back in the static bag. It's going right back in, because at the end of the day, it plays Deep Rock Galactic just as well as my 580 did, and that's all I ever asked of it. There's a lot of artificial inflation of value in the market as far as consumer perception. As to say that we've all, through years of marketing, been brainwashed to think that just because it's 2020, we all need to have a machine capable of 4K 60 FPS, and that if we're not getting a card that can at least approximate that, we're not getting our money's worth. Well, it's a volatile ass market out there, so this is the new reality that you want a beginner chipset, it's going to be $200, and it's going to be barely adequate for 1080p. It would just be so nice if maybe we could have nice things without having to deal with these totally BS price fluctuations. Because, I mean, you promised the card at $250. You'd like to think that they were actually prepared to sell the cards at $250. But I gotta think that Nvidia knew that they're putting it all on green when they released a week later, and we're counting on people being disappointed in the AMD card. And boy, did they get dealt a hell of a good hand when that AMD card just happened to be a monumental flop. I suppose we could be in an alternate timeline now where the AMD card didn't get slagged nearly as bad, but the likely result is it would have released at $259 instead of $199. Both of the cards would have gone up. Not the day after launch. We all know that the price of these cards on the aftermarket is gonna go through the roof. That is, if they ever actually empty the shelves. The thing is, these cards are not flying off the shelf. 6500 XTs are still there. And these 3050s, I got a feeling they'll still be there. So they said, why wait for the day after price bump, which turns out isn't actually going to come nearly that fast. He said, hell, let's just bump the price from the get-go. Shameful display. Cutthroat capitalism at its finest. And, of course, who loses? The consumer. That's fine, though. That's fine. Probably just my sign that I'm supposed to put down the video game controller and go find religion or something. I still got 900 hours to go on Deep Rock Galactic, though, so I don't know. That's all I got to say about it. You know, like and subscribe or I'll kick your ass and all that stuff. Just kidding. Love you.